To all who come to this happy podcast, welcome to FreshBaked a happy place where each week we combine imagination and our experience to discuss, challenge, and explore all things Disneyland. I am Ron Berner. That is, of course, Mr. Fresh Baked himself, the indelible David Erickson.
What's up, Fresh Baked?
And this is the FreshBakedpresents podcast, episode 10. Thank you for joining us, where today we discuss the changing of the Disneyland Tide, the new Disneyland normal. We reach into the mailbag to answer your questions and, of course, our 5 things Disneyland. David, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Ron. How are you?
Tiny cold, so if I sound off, I apologize.
Wait, you're living the dream, I thought.
Oh, I'm still living the dream, but I didn't want you to think that the sound of my voice was making my dream seem a little less great.
Nah, dreams are still coming true.
Dreams are still coming true. And on that subject, David, the Disneyland tides are a-changin'. I don't think I'm overstating it to say that the Disneyland we once knew, say, circa 2019, at least as it pertains to your park experience and navigation and just the tone, no longer exists. And it feels like a new Disneyland has rolled in. And I don't mean that as a negative at all, but I also don't mean it as a positive. I just mean it as something that is there, that you can feel. So there's definitely a lot of turkey leg on that bone. And we're going to cover most of that. So I'm going to offer you the first bite. Actually, we're not sharing a turkey leg. So we each have our own. I don't even
like turkey legs, Ron.
I know. We each have our own turkey leg that we'll take one bite of, and then off we're done eating. Right. So, take that bite and share with us your thoughts on the new Disneyland normal, whatever that means to you, or just some of the experiences that you've noticed or that have resonated with you as making you say, okay, that's different, but that's different here to stay.
Well, I would say that I don't think I'm going on a limb here by saying that the experience that we're having today is different than it was in pre-COVID. Am I allowed to say that still? Is that a thing? It's funny because it seems so impossible for us to believe that the park that we go to is not the same park we were at just 2 years ago. Just 2 years ago, and things are just different. They are different, and you can't argue it. You can't. It is different, and I think that's where some of the anxiety that guests are having, some of the impatience, some of the anger that some people might be feeling, is that they want so very badly for it to be 2019 again. Where we didn't have to worry about anything. We didn't have to worry about, social distancing or masks or reservations or just any of that. There's just this cloud hanging over you just go to Disneyland and all you want to do is feel magic, but you can't escape. You can't escape this cloud of newness.
It's our comfort zone. It was our comfort zone.
That was one of the things when I go to Disneyland, I used to tell this story all the time because I am not the same person. When I go to Disneyland, I'm not the same person I am when I'm at home with everybody else. I'm a completely different person. I leave all that stuff there. Once I cross that threshold, go through the tunnel, it's a different experience for me. But I mean, we're bringing it with us. We're bringing it with us through that tunnel these days because you can't escape it. You can't.
No,
it's really difficult. Yeah,
it is true. I think of it in terms of. It's almost like the changing of the tide. Certainly, the absence of the park experience for a year and a half or over a year anyway. There's that element of it, but even aside from that, so that is obvious changes that were taking place in the new experience from there. But then just the new Disneyland that's coming in. So cut to official end of said pandemic, and we're back to what the new normal is in the world. The park itself, the whole experience, the whole navigation to me, and it dawned on me while I was in the park going through everything, and everything feels very different from the standpoint of the comfort zone that we used to be in, or that I used to be in navigating the park. It's almost like the 405 or the 101 or whatever your freeway is. And commuters know this.
Yeah.
You know exactly what lane to be in and when to be in it,
Yeah.
even though it doesn't make any sense because there's 4 or 5 across. It doesn't make any sense, right? But you know which lane to be in.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And when I was in the parks, I've noticed it for several weeks or whatever, but it's really hit me that it's not the same, and it won't be the same. Imagine, it's almost like the people or everybody's informed. So those park goers that go once a year or less are now, the secret's out, so to speak, especially with the Genie Plus. But what I mean by that is people are coming in more knowledgeable than ever, and they're going to do whatever, the path of least resistance is offered to them by the Genie Plus, which is going to change course for all of us that know how to navigate the park. And I mentioned that because think of something that we commonly talk about as when those dominate the park days, dominate Disneyland days. That navigation is no longer at least valid the way that it was at one time, because now everything is being dispersed evenly throughout the park, and just the whole tone is different. And again, when I say the tone is different, I don't mean it in a negative way at all. The park just has a different feel. And what I mean to say by that is I want to recognize it, understand it, and just accept it, and then embrace it and go with it from there. Like it's okay, but it is certainly going to be a new experience. So to that point, David, your experience navigating the park or your experience in the park, have you noticed it to be like even the like things that you normally would do, wait times? Obviously, it's been packed recently, but have you noticed a changing of that tide?
Well, there's still to this day. How long have we been doing this now? Since May. We're 5 months now, right? Or is it no? Yeah, almost 6. I still keep thinking. I'm still thinking Fast Pass. I still have Fast Pass in my mind. Like we should get a Fast Pass. We should get a Fast Pass, and then I have to keep correcting myself. There is no Fast Pass, but it has opened up the park to me a little bit in a positive way, which is not going to last, obviously, because Lightning Lane's coming. But in a positive way, has opened the park up to me, because before I wouldn't do anything that wasn't on Fast Pass, or if I couldn't get a Fast Pass, I wouldn't go on that ride that day. You make your choices each week. I would say, okay, I'm going to do Space or Big Thunder or whatever on Fast Pass, and I'll skip the rest. But now I can go on any ride I want right now. I mean, 30, 40 minutes, if you're okay with that. I did Jungle Cruise. It took almost an hour, but I was fine with it for some reason.
Right. Well, that's just it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. But it was funny because going in, because I make this point, I haven't put the video out yet, but I did a trip report on Saturday, and going in, I was thinking, I sure wish I had a Fast Pass for something right now. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go find the most annoying queue in terms of how long it takes, how slow it goes. The density of the crowd when you're in Jungle Cruise, how dense it is.
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan, right? I'm gonna go. That's where I was. I'm gonna do Jungle Cruise, and you know what? I survived. The ride even broke down for 15 minutes. Right, and I was stuck in the upper deck for 15 minutes without moving, and that was excruciating. But I survived, and it wasn't so bad. And I kind of I dig it. I dig it a little bit.
Man, I tell you what, that's what I mean by the park is changing. Like the experiences that I used to have, it's you now are making choices. You're most likely not doing Space Mountain, Radiator Springs, Guardians of the Galaxy. I know that's DCA, but even Indiana Jones. The Haunted Mansion. The attractions are all, at least on Saturday, the last 2 Saturdays. This last Saturday was the busiest I had seen the park in 2 years.
Yeah, me too.
It was insane. So in so many ways, I was really thrilled and delighted to see it. In other ways, I was like, and I'm talking to Champ, I'm like, man, we have to make decisions. We have to make decisions. So, every other weekend. So we're going to skip, say, Space Mountain. Well, we always do that first.
You can knock out Space Mountain.
Yeah, we always do that first, so we get it right away. But the point is the days of knowing that we're going to do all of the attractions, especially all of the major attractions, and Big Thunder wasn't even open. So we're like, there's definitely a choice that needs to be made, and that's part of of how the Tide has changed. And I know that the Genie Plus is coming, and it's essentially exactly the same as Max Pass, that second tier that they have, the Plus. But it's also the fact that now patrons are now the guests. Everybody is going to be drilled into that Genie Plus app. So now before, most people didn't remember the old days when you had to walk to a Fast Pass booth to get your ticket. Like, how crazy was that? Like, we did it. Like, that was so crazy. So then they upgraded to the digital version of it, and then it became like, okay, that's smart and that's usable. But still, my point remains. It was kind of a secret. Most people had I can't tell you how many times, and I know this happened to you as well, how many times I was in queues just talking to people, and they ask us how that works. People didn't really know.
Fast Pass or Max Pass?
Yeah, Fast Pass. Before Max Pass even. The Fast Pass.
Wow.
No, because people that you have to be a Disneyland aficionado to know about the paper pass and every 90 minutes or whatever. So they would ask how it works, so people didn't know about it. Now my point is there's more knowledge out there, and there's going to be less people in the parks that are not going to know how to navigate it and be very efficient and do those. And that, of course, is going to dilute us that goes all the time. We're not going to have that advantage we once had.
I would beg to differ on that last point. To your point, Fast Pass seems incredibly simple, basic. It's, go take paper ticket, show up, you're on the ride early. People still needed help with that. Not everybody understood that. I feel like I feel like a very significant percentage of guests in a park post Genie Plus are going to have no clue, what it is or how it works or how you use it. They had a hard time with Max Pass, and we had to do whole videos on Max Pass. This is recent times, 2017 or whatever. We did whole videos on how to use Max Pass, and people still didn't understand that that Max Pass was just convenience. It wasn't the actual Fast Pass. You weren't paying for the Fast Pass. You were paying for the ability to do it from Space Mountain. Now with Genie Plus, or Genie, I feel like there's going to be a significant amount of people who are just going to be hit over the head with, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what I'm doing, because they don't know. They don't pay attention like you and I do. And so do, like to your point, we do have the frequent visitor does have a better understanding than the average guest, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you that there's certainly that learning curve, and of course there's going to be that large subset of people that are clueless and they just don't want to deal with it, so they won't. But I think,
or they will.
What makes this different though is this is, as I was saying, this is the new normal. This is just like the Disneyland app. At one time, I don't have a smartphone. I don't have the Disneyland app. Well, guess what? You need the Disneyland app. Well, this is the same thing. You need the Disneyland Genie. You don't have to use it. You don't have to utilize it. But guess who's not going to utilize it? Us that go every day. Us that knows what lane of traffic to be in. It's not for us. It's for them.
It's not for us.
And that's why I'm saying
I'm good.
I'm good. And that's what's going to be fun. That's what's going to be fun is to learn what the new normal is, and the beauty of it is we don't have to worry about being stressed out and getting into certain rides. And this is why friends and family from the Midwest, when they go, they're like, "How do you go to Disneyland?" I'm on 4 rides. It's miserable experience, and I'm like, you just don't know what lane to be in. You don't know. You don't have that experience in the park, and you're stressed because you have an itinerary that you're trying to fulfill on the one day you're there versus I'm just path of least resistance. If that's busy, I'm going somewhere else. And guess what? I'm going to have a blast. So that's the benefit we have. Also, so anything else on the element of like, I guess the electronics, the Genie itself, the Fast Pass, the Max Pass, the dining, the mobile order?
Well, I think you had things that I feel like are an improvement. I'm not a huge fan of being on my phone. I think you've said the same thing. But I can't deny mobile order is badass. Mobile order is great.
In theory, for sure.
I know that it sucks for the standby guests because they're favoring mobile order now, where you have 3 lanes of mobile and 1 lane of standby kind of thing. Get mobile order, dude. Just like you said. I know you don't want, people are resisting still in this day and age. People who are resisting smartphones and resisting, the app. You're just going to have to come around. I don't know how else to put it. You're just going to have to come around at some point because I timed it like I said in the video. It was Galactic Grill, 45 minutes to stand by, 5 for mobile order. I don't know how you can hate digital technology all you want, but I love 40 minutes in the park. I love not having to wait for 45 minutes for a cheeseburger.
I can't believe you got it in 5 minutes. That's amazing. Mine is not that great.
Your mobile?
Yeah, it's not that.
Well, it just depends. It's all about timing. In this moment, at this time, when I was at Galactic Grill, it was 12:45 or something like that. The wait time, the return time for mobile order was 5 minutes. I counted the guests in the line that was in standby, multiplied that by 1 minute and 15 seconds, which is the typical time, 45 minutes. So yeah. I mean, I didn't have to order anything to find out. I could just observe it and see. It was 5 minutes for people to get mobile order. They were just walking in, grabbing their food, and leaving.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, I've never eaten at Galactic Grill in my entire life. Maybe I did on the show with you. I don't know.
I don't argue with that. That's not my favorite place to eat either.
Well, plus it's that early in the morning. I'm in Tomorrowland.
Oh yeah, you do Tomorrowland in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. So the mobile order thing for me, where it makes the park different, is I don't like the idea. This is going to change because guess what? By the way, there's a lot of changes are going to take place, including possibly reservations, because they don't have it figured out yet, and it's not efficient. It's not great for the guests. It's not great for anybody involved, and that is
not at all.
That's bad business. But what I was going to say, we can get into the reservations after I mention this little comment. But I don't like the fact Gibson Girl's the example I always use. So if we're gonna walk past Gibson Girl around 2 or whatever to head to DCA, you want to get ice cream? That's off a thing, or we'll come back later in the evening to get ice cream. If we've already had the salt and straw flavors for the month, but anyway, we'll do Gibson Girl, and even the mobile order for so many things, or even if you want an adult beverage, if you want to just grab a beer or whatever at DCA. The time zone to get it is 30 minutes, the window. You know what I mean? It's it's never right now. So then it just kind of throws a monkey wrench into the plans. If you want a Dole Whip or you want these things, which are basically we're here now. I've just got off of Indy or Jungle Cruise, Dole Whip time before we head wherever. So anyway, it's not a perfect system yet.
I hear you. I've made that complaint many times that when it comes to things like that, I don't want to schedule a Dole Whip. I just want to get a Dole Whip.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here. But I'm talking about. I guess there's wins and losses on that. I'll say this too. I just experienced for the first time. This really rubbed me the wrong way. Actually, I went to Red Rose Tavern. I placed a mobile order, so I had already done it, but somebody else was trying to go standby, and the CM told them there's no standby at all. Literally no standby at Red Rose Tavern, mobile order or nothing. And they said that was because they were short-staffed.
Right.
So I don't like that situation where it's mobile order or nothing. Now, I mean, I know. You go somewhere else or something, I don't know. But what if you want Red Rose Tavern? I don't know anybody who does. But if you really wanted, it was breakfast because they're the only place that had breakfast. What do you do? Mobile order only? That's not okay with me. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I don't like that at all. And like I mentioned to you a few weeks ago, not maybe even a couple weeks ago. Single rider for Radiator Springs, the cast member told me straight up, sorry, no single rider because we're short-staffed. I was like, then that's a problem. That speaks to part of the changing of the tides as well, is the return of full capacity. I tell you what, yesterday was as busy as a busy days 2, 3, 4, 5, or not yesterday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday was world-class busy in my opinion, and I have a lot of experience in the parks. That was busy. So full capacity, whatever that means, whatever that looks like. The full staff coming back, the things like the parades and the things of entertainment. When all these things start to come back into the park, that's also going to be new, and I wonder what that's going to look like. Any thoughts?
Well, they can't do full capacity until they figure out staffing. You made that connection there just a second ago. They want to. I hear Chapek say that he wants to be at full capacity by the end of the year. Okay, hire another 5 or 10,000 CMs or whatever the number is. I'm not sure what that number is supposed to be, but It's clear they don't have enough staff to do that. It's clear that they're struggling. We just gave 2 examples: Radiator Springs Racers and Red Rose Tavern. That is affecting the guest experience. Not having enough cast is affecting the guest experience. But, and here's where I have trouble with, I try to stay positive, but this is by design. This is intentful. Disney, they could hire people whenever they want. There are no limits. But they're not. They're not hiring people the way that they should be. I know that there was some resistance back in September when there was still the whole thing with the unemployment, that kind of thing. But that's not the case anymore. They should be hiring people if they're going to be going full capacity.
Yeah, they absolutely should be hiring people. I also think that there's a changing of the guard when it comes to, so this reservation system is not. That's a whole episode in and of itself. But there,
sure
you cannot. You cannot charge a premium for a Dream Key pass and then not give availability to those that purchased that premium product. You cannot do that, and this goes back to the conversation that we had way back when I'm still going to die on this hill. They're not going to say no to taking my money. So I don't care what it looks like right now. They will open the floodgates. I'm dying on that hill. Yeah. They're not going to turn us down for long.
Well, they have, though, because there have been plenty of people. Are you talking about just getting into the park? Because they've already collected your monthly fee, Ron. They've already collected your payment.
I know, but they can't do that. It's just bad business. So they can't. Well, so technically, yes, they can do that. There's no way that they're going to continue to do something like that. I don't see it.
I sure hope not.
It doesn't make it just. It's about offering value. It's about value. So you burn that value bridge with the consumer, and you will pay for it. You will pay for it. So they do have our money right now, yes, but fool me twice. That whole deal.
Yeah, it's gonna take. They better fix it by May. That's all I can say. Or not May. When did we buy those? In July, was it?
Yeah. When
Something
was
like that.
Yeah, I don't even remember. July.
Yeah. They've got 10 months or so to figure that out. But I'll say this: it's consumers are not dumb. We know that the pass we bought in 2019 cost $1,400. The pass we bought in 2021 cost $1,400. We're not getting the same product for that pass. We knew that there was going to be some difference, but come on, we weren't expecting what we got. And I said that also in another video. People they're going to. You give them 10 more months of this, I don't know how they sell annual passes. Maybe they don't want to. I don't know.
It's not going to happen. No way. I don't believe any of that. And I'm only saying this based on my own opinion. They cannot. It's bad business. They cannot sell a premium product that is pitching to you that you can go whenever you want, and yet you can't get a reservation to go whenever you want, anytime. And I didn't run into the problem, so I must have missed it. But I got I got all 6 of mine every weekend coming up for the next till Christmas. Well, not every weekend, but every other weekend until Christmas. I didn't miss any of that. And I heard the backlash that was coming out, but I just can't. They pitched you on something, and they're not delivering on that promise. They cannot do that. There's no way that that's sustainable.
Well, let me paint a picture for you, because you said you missed it. There was a moment for a few days where if you were a prospective annual pass holder, a Magic Key holder, that was looking to buy a Dream Key in early October 5th, you decide you want to buy a Dream Key. You could not have made a reservation.
Right.
At all for all of October.
Right. I know. That's what I'm saying.
That is offensive.
Well, that's my point. But they pitched you on you can have
weekends. I know.
That's why they upsold you to weekends that you cannot have. And September 29th is when I got all of mine. So I missed it apparently by a week. And I'm like, when I went, I just went Saturday, and then I got it. And then of course on Sunday I checked, and I got the next one. I haven't run into the problems, but I would be furious.
You probably won't.
I would be furious if I did. And this goes back to the point that, of course, every pass holder, you got to play the system, right? That's why I do Max Pass. That's why I do Single Rider. Single Rider, by the way, that's a different conversation, because I don't think that's problematic at all.
No, not at all.
But by manipulating
Thank God for Single Rider.
I agree. I totally agree. So by playing the game that is played, so if you're going to tell me I can only have 6 6 reservations, I'm going to book 6 reservations, and so is every other Magic Key holder. Like, you have to, so you don't run into that problem. But then again, that perpetuates the problem. This is why they have a problem that they're unaware, they're aware of, but they don't know what to do. They're just collecting data like crazy.
You're talking about squatting. That's a new problem. People booking out and then just sitting on dates, you mean?
Yeah, it's a new problem because it didn't exist before, because we didn't need reservations before.
Right.
So and that goes to, you want to talk about the new Disneyland. We didn't even get into it, and we have to move on. But here's another thing that we can talk about for a minute or two is the Disney Plus Genie. Mark my words. If I have already said this, I apologize, because I tell everybody that'll listen. At one time, at marketing conventions and summits that I went to, there was the technology. It's almost like Minority Report, where if you're at a zoo, like the Cincinnati Zoo, I believe it was, you walk up to the lion cage, boom, you're getting push notifications. You're getting all kinds of stats and fun facts about the lion and the history of the lion and all that kind of stuff. And you're just kind of going through the navigation while you're standing at the lion cage. Genie Plus is big data. Genie Plus is RFID. Genie Plus is all of those elements, and Genie Plus will be push notifying you to the nearest churro cart. The whatever they want, whatever they can market to you, because they've already came out and said that they're collecting data based on your behavior. And guess what that means? You're gonna get targeted based on where you're at and what you do and what you like.
I don't mind that. I don't mind it as long as they do it with love in their heart. You know what I mean?
Well, it's gonna be so robotic. It's gonna be, here's where they are and here's what they like. So it's not even, you know what I mean? It's just, but it's fine. I don't hate any of it, but it's what's coming. To me is the future of Disneyland. Like things are changing. Things are changing. Like before, you just needed to have the app. Now you have to have the Genie app, because if for no other reason, just so you don't get caught in the quagmire of a horrible experience, you at least want the guide posts to tell you, to give you the option. If you're a one-time visitor, like I don't think this is for the Magic Key holders. I think it's for the people that are going to the park that want a good experience. So I guess we can move on. Anything else you want to talk about, or should we have concerns?
Yeah, I mean, reservations, mobile order, I'm concerned about. Reservations are not good for the guest. I'm concerned about that. But I don't think that there's, right now, we have to accept it, you know? And that's what I'm like. I think you're in the same boat, is that I don't approve, I don't like it, but I'm willing to accept it because I want to go to Disneyland, and that's just something that we have to kind of deal with. So concerns, I'm just concerned that they're relying too much on data and all that stuff, and there's not enough concern about me. That's my concern. I want them to be concerned about me and how I feel and what I want, as opposed to what they're... It's one thing to be sold something. It's another thing for it to be about the selling instead of about the guest. They've kind of flipped it a little bit, and it's growing in that direction. That's my concern, is that it's becoming more about the revenue and less about the guest.
I do agree with that. And based on that, I do think, because they're not stupid, I could be ignorant and I could be naive. I just think that they're going to get to a place where they see that the changes need to be made. What's going on is just not working. They don't know yet. I really don't think that I think they're collecting all this data, and they're saying, let's put it this way. They have to know the reservation situation is a corporate nightmare. This is not good for them. It's not a good look. They have to know that. They're not stupid. I know we like to nitpick them on everything. They have teams of people that decide what flavor of churro to make. I feel like they're trying to work on making us buy more.
Like those dolphins in a I don't know, I'm making a South Park reference, but or whatever they were. But there's already, actually, I don't know I guess we're running over, but there's already a reaction. I think I'll have a video about this before this airs, but Disneyland Paris has already cut their prices for their Lightning Lane, their Premier Access. They have already cut their prices. And when you're talking about a product that is supposed to be flexible based on demand, demand is low because they've cut the prices, right?
Right,
that means demand is low.
That's actually created a whole different problem. You want it to be high priced so that way it limits those that are buying it.
Right, but they made it lower.
I know, but that's to your point. That's the supply and demand. They're not selling enough of it. They need to sell more. So how do we do that? Is we do that, but in turn, the byproduct is congestion again.
Yep.
So
pay attention to that. That's an interesting story that's going to develop.
Yeah, that's an interesting story, and I think there's a lot of interesting conversations we're going to have in the coming weeks. I mean, we don't know what Genie Plus is going to look like. I know you're going to do 1,000 videos on this type of stuff, but I also think there might be no. I mean that in a heartfelt way.
No, I know, but
I do think there might be a value in the conversation of your experience and my experience, and we'll see what comes, but I do think that this is all very fluid, including the reservation systems. People coming back to the park, capacity opening up. I mean, there's a lot of changes that can literally be happening on a week-to-week basis. So we just want to stay on top of it and touch on it as we go.
Yep.
All right, David. This week in Disney history.
Got it.
I hope that I wrote some questions for you because... October 17th, 1937, Huey, Dewey, and Louie debut in the Donald Duck Colors Sunday comic page. If they first appeared in a film called Donald's Nephews. Originally, I did not know this. Originally, there was no way to tell them apart because the colors on their costumes were considered interchangeable. Because the stories for the DuckTales TV series were more complicated than they were for the short Donald Duck cartoons, it was deemed necessary to distinguish between the three nephews. So, in a true stalagmite, hold on tight kind of way to remember things, the way to remember this is the brightest hue of the three is red. Huey. Hue, get it? The color of water, or dew, is blue. Dewey. And that leaves Louie. And leaves are green. So, get it? Louie is green, Huey is red, and Dew.
I have never heard that mnemonic before. I'm going to try it out someday. That may
I've never heard it. I've never heard it before either, but it was so crazy that I'm really going to remember it now because of that. So, were you a DuckTales fan growing up, or what?
No.
What were some of your favorite childhood cartoons? Just
none of them were Disney. I mean, I was a Bugs Bunny, Woody Woodpecker, Popeye. All those Tom and Jerry. I didn't watch when I was a kid. I didn't watch Disney at all.
That's so funny because my notes I wrote down Looney Tunes, Popeye, Smurfs, Tom and Jerry, Scooby Doo, and the Roadrunner.
There you go. I love Scooby Doo.
Yeah, I love Scooby Doo too. Yeah, exactly. I did love DuckTales though. I actually did, but it wasn't like the Saturday morning cartoon lineup. I don't know where DuckTales came into my life, but I was definitely a kid and saw it.
It was after my time. But I did enjoy the new DuckTales. I like those.
Yeah. October 15th, 1943, the Figaro short film Figaro and Cleo was released to theaters. It was the first of a handful of shorts that features the popular character from Pinocchio, with Figaro continuing to star in an additional 6 films. The fun fact here is that this animated short was based on a deleted scene from the film Pinocchio that was in the belly of Monstro. So, that's a fun fact. So, there's so much meat also on the Pinocchio bone. So, where does Pinocchio fall on your affinity for the golden age of Disney animation?
I don't have a memory of seeing it when I was little, but I did see it about 4 years ago, and I was shocked they made that movie.
I never shut up about this film.
What the hell was that movie?
Well, you mean it in a weird way. I mean it in a way. No. I mean it in a beautifully artistic way. It was the first film with water. They were underwater. Yeah. That was unheard of at the time.
The intro with the multiplane camera, the whole flying into the city. Beautiful. But the story is just, it was like a horror film.
Well, you should read the actual story. the real story is this is the Disney-fied version. Yeah. It's bad. I have the book. It's short. It's really, really short, like short story. But it's dark, and this is that live action.
Very dark.
Zemeckis remake. I've always said that the one film that could justify or warrant live action for an artistic standpoint, rather than just rebooting to make money, is Pinocchio. But there's so many worlds in there. There's so many different characters and worlds and colors and things. It's just, I hope they handle it very delicately and it doesn't fail, because I feel like it's a slippery slope. If done correctly, it could be amazing. So 1998, the Disney Legends Plaza was dedicated at the Walt Disney Studios to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. Walt himself once said, "You can dream, create, design, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it requires people to make that dream a reality." Established in 1987, the Disney Legends program recognizes people who have made an extraordinary and integral contribution with significant impact on the Disney legacy. The honor is awarded annually during a special ceremony. The Disney Legends Award itself has 3 distinct elements that characterize the contributions made by each talented recipient. This is super cool. There's a spiral in it, which stands for imagination and the power of an idea. There's the hand in it, and it holds the gifts of skill, discipline, and craftsmanship. There's a wand and a star on it as well, and that represents magic, the spark that is ignited when imagination and skill combine to create a new dream. That is cool, and the Disney Legends that were named 2 days later, many of which are huge names: John Hench, Herb Ryman, Richard Irvine, Roger Broggie, Joseph Fowler, and Robert and Richard Sherman. Yeah, that was a big.
Those are the names that built this.
Yeah, those are some of the biggest ones. So, David, can a YouTuber or say a podcast achieve Disney Legend status?
I don't see why not. I feel like we're on our way to Disney Legend status for sure.
I mean, this is episode 10, people.
Come on,
that's amazing. That's super cool. I love that Disney does that. I mean, they put such when they honor people, they honor to the extent, like to the fullest degree, and it's really cool. 1932 this week. Flowers and Trees and Mickey's Orphans are nominated for an Oscar. The Academy Award for Best Short Subject Cartoons has been given since the 5th Academy Awards in 1932. It's now called the Best Animated Short. Flowers and Trees would go on to win this inaugural Academy Award for Best Short Subject Cartoon and Walt's first Oscar. Walt has since held the category's record for most nominations, 39, and most wins, 12. And get this, MGM's Tom and Jerry from 1940 to 1967, we just spoke of them, is the category's most lauded animated series overall, being nominated for a total of 13 Oscars and winning 7.
Wow.
Yeah, right? That's super cool. And the last thing this week in Disney history is another one of those massive, massive moments. October 15th, 1923, Walt receives a telegram from Margaret Winkler offering to pay $1,500 each for the first 6 Disney Alice films. And these were, of course, one of Walt's earliest innovative ideas, where he was taking a live-action character, Alice, and placing her in an animated land of cartoon characters. Animated characters had been seen in live-action films, but they hadn't been seen with this technique yet. In May of 1923, Walt wrote to film distributor Margaret Winkler, hoping she would take an interest in his unfinished short film, Alice's Wonderland. It was a pilot for the series of short Alice comedies. The next day, after receiving that telegram, Walt and Roy, which were the Disney Brothers cartoon studio at that time, signed a contract with M.J. Winkler Productions to produce 6 Alice comedy short films for $1,500, with an option for 6 more. But Winkler would retain all rights to the film produced. Put a button in that. The same day, Walt writes to Virginia Davis's mother in Kansas City, asking them to move from Kansas City to Hollywood for Virginia to star in a series of Alice comedies. And she had worked with Walt in Kansas City on Laugh-O-Gram films. So they did move, and she became the first human star to appear in Walt's films and starred in 13 of the 56 Alice films produced. That event became the official start of what is now known as the Walt Disney Company. And fun fact, as if that wasn't big enough, the year 1923 became the inspiration behind the name of the first official fan club in Disney history, D23.
Oh, wow.
Right, I know, super cool. Sidebar, in November 1923, Winkler married Charles B. Mintz.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we need some Darth Vader music.
I know, right? I did not know that. I
know, this is so cool. A film distributor who had been working for her since 1922. So he worked for her first and then ended up marrying the boss. How great is that? He assumed, and then he just barges in and he assumed control over Winkler Pictures after marrying her. And, of course, infamously obtained the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit.
Yeah.
But that's a story for another
I
day.
did not know that there was that connection.
I didn't either. It's so cool, so fun. I don't know any of this until all I get is a line item for what happened, and then I do the research, and then I write all this stuff coming up with, that. Yeah. It's fun. It's great. Mailbag. Thank you for your questions. We appreciate them. Send more. There's plenty queued up, but we're getting through them. So Steve asks us, or suggests, he paints a picture for us. David, you've won the biggest Disney fan ever competition. Your prize is that Disney will build accommodations for you to live in the parks for 1 year. It'll blend and be themed to the land, of course. And what land do you choose to live in?
I think I'm going to live in a loft or some kind of apartment above the shops on Main Street. I've always loved that idea of living on a main street like that, like in a city or an old main street like that. But that's my favorite land, if you're going to call it one. Main Street is, and I want to be able to look out the window and look down on the crowds and see people walking down Main Street. Almost not, I almost said like in Walt's apartment, but it's different. I don't want to do that. That's sacred.
I can't wait to read what I wrote.
But I would do a loft apartment on Main Street above the shops.
Sometimes this is hilarious. I think people want us to say Galaxy's Edge, or you know what I mean? But The truth of the matter is, Main Street, USA. I also put. Yeah. I wrote, Walt's apartment would have been heaven on earth, but it's sacred and should always remain vacant for Walt. So the other side of the fire station in a loft, or the egg house gate, or above the corner.
Wow, that's interesting.
Right? It so is. It's so funny that we immediately Walt's apartment would be so cool, but that is so sacred. It should always remain untouched for him. Main Street would be cool because it feels like the most it just feels like the 30s, 40s, or whatever. Like you living in that world, seeing happy people coming into the park. All the other lands, I just feel it felt. The only other one that I considered was New Orleans Square is amazing and I love it. But other than that,
that's
I'm like,
plan too.
Yeah, exactly. Main Street is like how. Once you think about it for a second, you're like, how do I not live on Main Street?
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Steve. Now, 5150 Batman asks us, and I know what 5150 means. Cuckoo.
That's an interesting handle.
Yeah. Crazy Batman is in other words. It's a California penal code for psycho.
Yeah.
What is the future of the Toy Story parking lot? Third gate, shopping area, something else entirely?
There's two possible futures. If you believe Disneyland Forward, the future is Disney Springs, basically. If you're familiar with Walt Disney World and Disney Springs, or more directly, maybe a downtown Disney, but bigger and better. A mix of dining, shopping, hotels, some entertainment, but it's not a paid ticket. It's not a thing that you have to pay to go in. It's just it's a entertainment district, as it were. That's what Disneyland Forward was proposing. If it doesn't become that, then it's going to stay a parking lot. I know a lot of people want to make it a third gate. You could probably fit a DCA-sized park there, maybe. But the fact that it's just so disconnected from everything else is the reason why they wouldn't do it, I don't think. Plus, then you have to answer. Now you have to solve that other parking problem. So it creates a new problem. You got more space, more parking.
Yeah, my answer is I don't know because you know
what?
Toy Story parking lot doesn't exist for me. I don't
That's a shame.
know. No, it is not at all. Why?
Because it's the best parking lot.
No, it isn't. Like, it also matters on where you come. I'll tell you this. We've talked about this before. The bus ride alone would make me drive around. Like, I would rather. I want to get out of my car and walk the pedestrian bridge downtown Disney into the park. That's what I want to do, or the tram track, which nobody wants to do. But it's so out of my way to go to Toy Story parking lot, and then I have to get in line to get in on a bus, which is the worst experience in the parks. I just don't. I'm not a fan of the bus type of situation.
I hear you.
But I don't mean that it doesn't exist to me, other than I just don't use that.
Right.
I feel like it's going to exist as a parking lot for at least another 10 years. I had forgotten until you just mentioned it that the Disneyland Forward had that what you just described. I had forgotten about that, but I don't see it changing. They need to buy the land, more land between there and Disneyland to start.
You got to fill those gaps. You got to fill those gaps.
Yep. Thank you for the question. Let's see. My cursor moved. Question number 3 comes from the Land Bridge. If you could work any position at Disneyland, on stage or backstage, which would it be and why?
Well, I think I would work backstage. I wouldn't work on stage. I mean, I can see the allure, but I don't think I'm not very good at repetitive tasks. I need to have some sort of variety in what I'm doing. I don't know. It's hard for me, that kind of work. But I would want to work backstage. Doesn't really matter which position. I'm a ladder climber by nature. I like to ascend. You know what I mean? And I need a place to go. I need a goal to work forward. So I would work backstage and, eventually become president of Disney at some point. But along that route, I've often said that the thing that I want to be able to do most is to be the guy in the room that says no to all those terrible ideas, and to speak or to represent, to be the voice of the people in those rooms where they make decisions. Because I don't feel like there's not enough representation for the guests. Because I don't know if any of those guys in those offices ever walk the park like a guest does, and that's what I would want to do. I would want to be the guy that is representing the guest.
I have run into Josh D'Amaro several times at the parks, but I'm not sure.
He is the only one. He is the only one that I've ever seen. He does it without an entourage or anything. Yeah. Right.
And he's way bigger than I thought he was, and he's also, in terms of taller, like he's not.
He's tall.
He's not a slight little guy, and he's also extremely personal. He knows when you recognize him.
Yeah, I've gotten that a couple times.
Yeah, I've just kind of like made eye contact and like did a quick little double take or whatever, and he just looked at me and smiled. Yeah, he knew that I knew. So I like his presence. I like his presence in the park, the way he carries himself. Of course, what's he going to do? But still, he doesn't have to be that personable. I also saw him stopping to take many photos with other people. I think most people know, like, my dream. Like, I'm actively currently pursuing and qualified, frankly, for a marketing role with the organization. I might even do the Disney Institute just to say I did.
Yeah.
They struggle with marketing. I could go back to problems that they've made with Galaxy's Edge opening. Remember they didn't have a confirmation page and stuff, like email marketing. There's a whole thing that
God, I remember that.
There's a whole thing that they could improve on. So I really want to be involved in the marketing of Disneyland, because I think they're great at it, and I've written many papers on it. But that's like the real life thing. I think, to answer the question, it'd be fun. I would say the engineer on the Disneyland Railroad. Yeah. And I'm going to even have more fun than that. So the engineer on the Disneyland Railroad, but also when I'm not doing that, because Jack Skellington character would be the most fun ever.
I couldn't do it.
I just think, well, I'm in a mask, so I wouldn't care. So you just get to play and have fun and do it. And then when that couple hours is over, because they don't let you in there very long, and you just go back to the Disneyland Railroad. Good times. Thank you for the questions. David, this comes from the Girly Nerd. What are some of your most cherished Disneyland moments from your childhood? I think somebody chimed in.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that question.
I know. I think somebody chimed in because last week you were or the question was more broad. It could have been at any point in our lives. Now it's like, okay, what are your most cherished Disneyland moments from your child?
I don't have any, man. I don't.
Well, it could. I suppose it could be your early experience, whatever that.
I have just the one memory of trying to budget the e-tickets. We talked about this last week, trying to budget the ticket book, but I don't remember riding rides. I don't remember anything. I don't remember. I know we've been when I was a kid, but I just don't remember any of it. As a matter of fact, the only other memory that I have of any kind of theme park was going to Magic Mountain and going on that thing that spins around super fast and you stick to the wall, you know, that thing. I remember that.
Gravitron, we called it.
Yeah, and almost puking. But no, I regret to say that my Disney life started at a very senior age. You know, I'm a late bloomer on that. I don't remember much at all of going to Disneyland as a kid.
So my childhood actually is very vivid because, like, I just went with my family and cousins and grandparents. I think it was called an Econoline van. So when we were a kid, you could lay down in the back on carpet in a van. It was like the coolest thing in the entire world. And that was from Oxnard. So for those that don't know, that's like 40 miles north of LA. Yeah. So that was maybe 2-hour trip. I mean, with grandparents driving. But my memories are, we came for might not have been the opening day, but like the early days of, like, I remember Splash Mountain, Captain EO, Star Tours in the 80s. The 80s was definitely my wheelhouse. So when special events like Splash Mountain was 89, things like that, we're like, oh my gosh, we gotta go. So we always did that. So just with family going to the opening of things is, and I already mentioned Big Thunder Mountain last week, and I'm not gonna get a little tear in my eye to do it again. Top five things Disneyland, or 5 things Disneyland. Forget what we call it.
5 things Disney.
5 things Disney, David. Top 5 changes to Disneyland or DCA that you think were for the best. This comes from Melissa. Thank you for the question.
I hopefully these. I kind of went broad with this. General, not like specific things, because there's not a lot of changes at Disneyland. There actually haven't been in a detailed sense, but for the best, annual passes are my number 5. I feel like annual passes are, some people don't like annual passes. And I'm talking about going back all the way to the 90s or whatever when they first started.
82.
Yeah, 82. But I feel like it was good for everyone. Annual passes are good for everyone. Good for local guests. It's good for the park. It's good for the economy. It's good in a lot of different ways. I know that we have the reputation of filling the park up, and there's that whole pass hole thing. But I've always said it's not the annual pass that makes somebody a bad person. It's a bad person makes a bad person. They are just a bad person.
Right.
But I think annual passes are for the best across the board.
Yeah, we approach these things. It's funny how our perspective on how our interpretation of them. Like annual passes, I wouldn't like. That's a change. But that feels like that was before my time. The pedestrian bridge, or the entire Mickey and Friends redo. Like, I don't know. I almost question if that counts as a change to Disneyland or whatever. But for me, it was a drastic change because I always walk downtown Disney. So that was a very welcomed thing when they did it. The whole Esplanade, or not Esplanade, but whatever you call the new Mickey and Friends, that whole layout, that whole... it was just a big improvement. It was a nice improvement.
I agree.
Adding to the structure in and of itself was nice to get that much more parking and all of it. It's that whole project of itself, including the pedestrian bridge and path, because I never take the tram even when it's running. I always prefer to walk, and I like walking downtown Disney in both directions to and from the park. So for me specifically, I really liked that change.
All right, cool. Hey, by the way, that walk today, do you still have to go around the hotel, or can you cut through in front of the ESPN zone now?
The last time I did it, I walked the tram route Saturday, but the time before that I did it, I still had to go to Disneyland or the hotel.
So you had to go around it. Okay.
Yeah, that was been 2 or 3 weeks ago though. So
all right,
I did that. I almost checked it this last time, but the reason I didn't is because they're so short staffed that when we were coming down, like you can't go down, you can't walk down the stairs to get to the level that the bridge is
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So then I ended up on an escalator that took me that like I
Doing that whole
bypassed. Yeah, so I ended up bypassing the bridge level. So then at that point I was just like, all right, we'll just walk the tram route.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Number 4.
Number 4. I'm gonna go Mission Breakout. Tower Terror is beloved by a lot of folks, but in my opinion, I feel like Mission Breakout was an improvement for my taste anyway. Both in because the ride the way it operates is different than it used to be. There was just 3. I think it was 3 drops before, but they were all pretty big drops. But now there's like 5. I mean, you're dropping and climbing a bunch. Yeah, I feel like it's more fun. There's more energy. I prefer Mission Breakout than over Tower Terror.
I do too. I love Mission Breakout. I really, really do. It's fun. It's that I think the one main element that really amps it up is the music. The music just I get off that thing and I'm like, well, obviously it's an adrenaline rush, but you get off of it and it's like that is awesome. I love it. My number 4. Single rider line. I don't even know when this came, so maybe this goes back to your 80. This goes back. I tried to search it really quick. But there's so much research that is required in all of this, but or at least to make sure that I'm not saying things that are inaccurate. So I always want to make sure that I do research to like fact check myself. But all I could find, it took me 10 minutes, and all I could find was single rider was like reopening, of course, because everything's about reopening with the recent months or whatever. And I couldn't. I tried and I couldn't find it. So I don't know when single riders first came, but I know when I first discovered it wasn't long ago. It was like within the decade.
I think it's a recent thing. Pretty much.
Yeah, and it changed the game for me from a navigation point. Like I say, Radiator Springs Racers, we do it. I know people wait 90 minutes, 120 minutes, and to me, don't do it, folks, unless you care so much about that picture specifically. You got to get the picture once. I get it, but other than that, man, you're in and out of that thing in 20 minutes. Single rider for me was very, very welcomed.
I've done standby on Radiator Springs Racers twice since it's opened. Twice. It's either been fast pass for single rider for me. I don't know how to do Radiator Springs without doing single rider. So, and by the way, PSA for those, because there's still some debate, and I think I've said this before. Even if single rider isn't just for you, it could be for 2 people or 3 people or 4 people. Understand that no matter if me or my friend or somebody else doesn't fill that single rider seat, it goes empty. You're not taking anybody's spot. Nobody's spot is being taken by a single rider. They are only putting more people in. It is a requirement for efficient operations of any attraction that it's possible. So, because some folks just think that you're taking somebody's seat, it's not the case, not at all.
No, it's not at all. And you took the words out of my mouth. It's a more efficient process. It's point blank. Number 3.
Oh yeah, number 3. Well, to that end, I'm going to say fast pass. I personally would rather the park not have fast pass. I feel like it's more equitable and smoother if everything was just standby, but I don't speak for everyone. I'm not the average, park goer. And I do think that for most people, fast pass is wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. It allows you, it gives you that, I think you've said this before, that illusion that you're winning somehow, that not necessarily, you can't do it for every ride, but there are certain occasions where you get to beat the system a little bit with fast pass. And that's a nice feeling when your fast pass turn comes up for Space Mountain or whatever. Yeah. It works. I know it has its negative effect on standby, but there's a trade for that, and that's the positive effects of being able to do a couple rides a day where you don't have to wait in that long line.
It's exactly right, and that goes back to if that's the system that's in place, if that's the game that's being placed, don't hate me for being really good at that game, because I stack. Back in those days with Max Pass, I would stack, and I would have.
Do you remember that? Oh my!
I would have at least 4. I would have Guardians. I'd have all of DCA waiting for me to show up. I just got really good at it, and it was fun. And then it became, and that in and of itself became a game. It became fun. Like, oh, let's do this. So it was just a fun thing to do, especially with a kid. My number 3 is same thing. Virtual queues / fast pass. We already touched on fast pass, but I like the virtual queue in theory. I like the fact that I get chimed when it's time to go. I mean, this is also not something that happens a lot, but like to go to Rise of the Resistance, or even to get on into the land. To get into the land is it's kind of stupid actually, because you should always be able to get into the land. But the Rise of the Resistance and the idea of being able to not stand in line for 2-3 hours when I'm queued up, but now I can go in and enjoy myself, and to their point, spend money on food and merch. Or not, but just not be tied up in a queue line. So I think that's a smart thing that they hopefully can get better at utilizing.
I agree.
Number 2.
Number 2. Might as well finish it out. Mobile order, right? It's fast pass for food. I've already made my case for mobile order earlier today, and I can't believe it took them as long as it did to even put that system in place. And every restaurant, everything should be mobile order. Everything.
That's hilarious. My number 2 echoes every word you just said. My number 2, mobile order.
Mobile order, yeah.
Yeah. Mobile order is great, and you're right. It was absolutely one of those things where once it happened, once it came, you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
They can do this? Where's this been? That's insane. Super cool. Okay, David, number 1 change to Disneyland or DCA that you think was for the best?
No, number 1 for me, Buena Vista Street. I feel like DCA 1.0, that walk into the park, I don't even remember what they called it, but the train and the thing, the sun and all that, I did not enjoy that. I did not enjoy that at all. It was not pleasing to the eye. It did not make me feel welcome. It did not make me feel any kind of way at all other than awkward. Buena Vista Street makes me feel good. Buena Vista Street is Disney. That's what they're good at. They did something that they're really good at. They're not good at whatever it is that they were trying to do with 1.0 in that entrance. They're not good at that. They're good at Buena Vista Street. The execution was perfection, in my opinion, and it made the park completely different for me. So thank goodness for Buena Vista Street.
Right. I agree. All of your top 5, I agree with. I liked all of them. And I agree. They are all better for the park. They're better for their experience, and hopefully we continue to see more of those. My number 1, I guess by definition, updating the culturally outdated references on attractions. Wow. I mean, just because it's like, I don't really have anything to say to it. Is it for the best? Yeah, it's for the best. Okay, it's for the best.
I think so. Yeah,
it's for the effort. The effort is there. It's like,
good for them.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Like you said last week, and there's a lot of the attractions, but you said last week, and in a nutshell, it really is the crux of it all, and it can be minimized or simplified again. Not minimized. It can be simplified to, I'm not okay with shoving a girl in a trunk. Like, so it's like, is it innocuous on one hand? I guess on one hand it's innocuous, but I'm not going to defend shoving a girl in a trunk. So that's kind of the whole thing with all of this stuff. It's like the idea is in the right place, and you know what? Too late is better than never. So yeah, it's probably too late, and that could be the argument. But it needed to be done. And if anybody is ever offended, you just gotta, let's not do that. How do we negate that?
Right.
So anyway, other things that were on my list, David, I'm going to ask you: paper straws, healthy menu options, no selfie sticks, and French fry rocks.
Those are all quality things. None of those came to mind. But I support everything that you just said. I think, yeah. French fry rocks, they just suck.
They were so stupid. They were ugly. Like that. Even in the Tomorrowland world, they must have realized, like, what made them think that was a great idea.
It was 1/10 of the overall vision, and that makes it look terrible. Because if you don't finish the vision, then you've just got stupid rocks sitting out in the front now.
It just doesn't make, it made no sense. Like, it was archaic for 1955 Disneyland. It's just weird.
Yeah.
So, All right, David. A lot of stuff we talked about today. Any closing thoughts?
I have no closing thoughts whatsoever. And I've said every single thing that I wanted to say. I feel complete and fulfilled.
I always feel like that too when the show ends, but then I'll go for a jog or I'll do something and a million more things pop in my head like, I wish I would have
I have
said
done that too. There's notes in here that I probably didn't even get to, but I still feel like we did a fine job.
Me too. And then on the playback, I'm like, why didn't I say this? Or sometimes you'll say something and I'm like, I should have called him out on that. Not in a negative way, but I should have at least expanded upon his point. Sure. Things like that. Anyway, that's a wrap for today's show. Brings us to the end of another colorful, fun, action-packed filled show. Thank you for joining us for that discussion on, I don't even remember now, it's a blur. Everything that we just discussed, the Genie
new
Plus,
normal.
the new normal, the Disneyland new normal, the changing tides. Embrace it, everybody. Accept it and embrace it because it's...
What are you going to do?
It's just, what are you going to do? It just makes it better. Resistance gets you nothing but upset. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and I guess join us next week. I think I'm sure. When does Genie Plus launch? Open
at Disneyland? I don't know.
No, that's November. They haven't announced it yet.
17th was it? No, the 19th. I can't remember the date now. 19th.
19th for Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
I think they didn't announce November, but I'm guessing November. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway. So thank you, and join us next week while we discuss all the things that we're going to discuss. And until then,
is it my turn?
That's your cue.
FreshBaked.
That was your cue. We're gonna have to come up with a whole new spiel.
No, I did that on purpose.
I know. I do all of this on purpose. All right, great show. Talk later. My dog is annoying.